everyone, it's Lana from Lana Under Pressure. And in this video, I'm going to show you how I clean my Instant Vortex Plus, my Instant Omni and Omni Plus, and I'm going to share with you my top 5 tips on how to keep your instant oven looking good as new. One of the questions that I get asked most in my Facebook group and on my blog and in my YouTube channel is how to clean the Instant Omni and the Vortex Plus. I make videos, as you know, and it's really important for me for my ovens to be clean. I mean, you don't want to see a video with the grease-filled oven. So I've been trying since I started back in August of 2019 to keep the ovens clean. And so I wanted to go ahead and show you the things that I found that work, some of the things that didn't work, and also how to really deep clean the ovens. Now, if you look at these ovens, they're pretty clean. They almost look brand new, and I promise you I didn't switch them out for new ovens. These are the original ovens that I used. But they didn't start out that way before I started this video. And then I'm gonna show you what I found really worked, the different things that really worked to get those grease stains off. In my quest for keeping my ovens clean, one thing that I did was every time I would go into a hardware store or Walmart or something, I would pick up a different cleaner and I would try it. And this is just the group of cleaners, just a few of them that I've tried along the way. And so my number 5 on my list of tips for you is don't waste your money. Don't waste your money on these heavy duty cleaners and these different cleaners because none of them worked. Now, I'm sure they were really great at cleaning other things. One of the ones that I really liked that has nothing to do with cleaning the air fryer, but this one is Zep, and I got this at Home Depot. It's awesome for cleaning grease that gets on your cupboards above your stove or your oven. It's great. I have like this wooden one, these wooden cabinets, and this is fantastic at cleaning the grease off of those. Super easy. But when it comes to like the baked on grease that happens when you're using your air fryer oven, that kind of like greasy film that's been there, none of these worked. I've tried all of them. I've tried leaving them on for, however long they say. I've tried leaving them on for longer than they say. They didn't work. So don't waste your money. You don't need to go out and buy heavy duty cleaners. There is one spray on cleaner that I do use and I really like it. And I didn't buy it specifically for the instant ovens, but I had it for my other appliances and it works really well on the Omni and the Omni Plus. And that's the Wyman stainless steel polisher. Now that's for cleaning the outside. Usually what I do is I just use, after I've done cooking in it, I'll use the Norwex cloth and you can just wipe it down. But if you really want it to look super shiny and kind of like it did when you first took it out of the box, I find that the Wyman stainless steel polisher works really well. And you just wipe it down with your Norwex cloth or, whatever you want to clean it with, and you just spray it on just a little bit. And you just use a paper towel and you kind of go in a circle motion and it shines it up really well and it looks like brand new. One thing you do have to be careful though, when you're cleaning the outside of the Omni, Omni Plus, and the Vortex or any air fryer oven, is to not use really harsh chemicals like Clorox bleach or anything like that. Because, and a lot of people have told me that the words here are just really little stickers. So if you use Clorox bleach or you try to scrub that, they'll come right off. Number 4 on the list is to get creative and get the right tools to clean your instant ovens. In the manual, they tell you to just use either a sponge or a damp cloth. And that works great if you're cleaning it every day just for a light cleaning in between cooking. And that's usually what I will do. However, when you get that tough stuck-on grease that comes from cooking at really high heat, it's kind of like that yellowy film, just using a sponge doesn't work. So you need to get creative with what you use. And these are some of the things that I use. Now, I will say, do not use like a tough Brillo sponge, the scouring brush, or steel wool, or those, those really hard metal brushes that you use to clean the grills, because that's gonna scratch the inside. And especially with the Omni Plus and the Vortex Plus, because they have a non-stick coating, that'll just scratch it up. It's not a good thing to do. What I found works the best is these sponges that are the ones, they have a little bit of a scouring, but they're for light, everyday use. They're like the no scratch ones. You can also use the heavy duty sponges, but what I would say is don't use the ones that are brand new. So don't use it right out of the box. Use ones that you've used a lot, or kind of roughen it up so that it's not as tough on it. It doesn't scratch as much. It'll just give you just enough friction to get off the grease when we clean it. Other things that I use is, this is like to clean straws. I use this one, and I bought it for, I think it was like 50 cents at the dollar store. This is really good to get into those little tiny spaces, especially in the Vortex Plus. I also use a toothbrush. I also use one of these foam brushes to get into some of the tight spaces. And I use a paintbrush to apply the cleaner that we're going to talk about in the next tip. You're probably thinking, I've talked about what not to use, so what do I use when I'm cleaning it? And that brings me to number 3 on my list. What I use is a 2-part method, and the first part of cleaning is baking soda. That's it, plain old baking soda and water. That's what I use to clean the oven. In the manual, it tells you to use baking soda. What they don't tell you is not only do you need baking soda, but you also need time. It needs to sit, and that's the key. And baking soda is really cheap. I bought this box for $3 at the grocery store. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna take a small bowl, and if you're cleaning the Vortex Plus, which is a little smaller, you only need 1/4 cup of baking soda. I find for the Omni and Omni Plus, I use a little bit more, like 1/2 cup, maybe a little less than 1/2 cup. So you're gonna pour 1/4 cup of the baking soda into a small bowl, and then you're gonna mix it with about 2 tablespoons of warm water. And then you're gonna mix this up, and what you're looking for is a thick paste. You want it to be able to spread onto the inside of the oven, so you don't want anything too runny, but you also don't want it too thick that it won't spread. See, until you have kind of a thick, kind of gooey paste like that.
Use a toothbrush or a paintbrush to spread it all over the inside of your oven, making sure not to get it on the heating elements, the plastic parts, or any place you won't be able to reach. I've already used my 2-part method to clean the right side of this oven so you could tell the difference and you can compare them. As you're cleaning and applying the paste, you want to make sure that you stir it occasionally because the baking soda will start to separate from the water. Continue to apply the paste on the walls and the floor and the ceiling of your oven, whether it's the Vortex Plus or the Omni Plus. Just again, make sure to not get it on the plastic knob of the rotisserie, the heating elements, or too far behind the heating elements where you're not going to be able to reach it. As the paste dries, it'll become a brighter white and you'll be able to see where you need to apply more. Since the air fryer ovens have drip trays, it's not necessary to apply the paste and clean the floor of the oven. So what you can do instead is you can put a piece of parchment paper there to make cleanup easier. The Omni Plus and the Omni have a bottom heating element, so you want to try not to get the paste onto the heating element or where it connects. If you do, just take a sponge and wipe it off. Again, when cleaning the ceiling of the ovens, you want to make sure not to put the paste anywhere where you're not going to be able to reach. And there are just going to be some parts that you're not going to be able to reach, and you're just going to have to leave those alone. And I find that when applying the paste to the ceiling of the ovens, it's much easier to use one of those craft foam brushes than it is to use a paintbrush. But whatever you have, go ahead and use it.
Once you've applied the baking soda paste to the inside of the oven, the most important part is to let it sit. And by that I mean you need to let it sit at least 12 hours, if not overnight. The longer the better.
Once you've let the paste sit overnight, the best way to take it off is to get a bowl of warm water and a sponge. And you're just going to wet the sponge, wring it out, and then just start scrubbing. And remember, again, this is a Brillo pad I'm using, but it's an old Brillo pad, so the surface isn't very scratchy, and that's what you want to use. And just take your time, and this part is the part that's really messy and takes a little bit of work, but I promise it'll pay off. The little ledge where the rotisserie sits is the perfect place to use a toothbrush to get into that tight space. And I probably should have mentioned before, as you see, it's really important to wear gloves. Even though baking soda isn't that strong, it'll dry out your hands terribly, so make sure to wear gloves. In the Vortex Plus, it has that really annoying little ledge up there, and that's the perfect place I find to use the straw brush. But if you don't have one, you can use a toothbrush or your sponge. Just be careful because it's really sharp and you can cut your fingers. And as you're removing the baking soda paste, make sure that you're constantly dipping the sponge and wringing it out in your warm water. That's really important, and it's going to take some time to get all of that residue off, but it'll be worth it. Once you've scrubbed up all of the baking soda paste, you're going to use either a damp paper towel or my favorite, the damp Norwex cloth, and you're going to get up all the water and any of the rest of the residue that's left inside the oven.
Once you've gone ahead and cleaned it with the baking soda solution and you've wiped it down, you'll notice that there might be, depending on how dirty your oven was to begin with, there still might be some of that baked on grease. And that's because baking soda isn't a really strong solution. So it will go ahead and get that first layer, and once you've cleaned it with that, you can go ahead and use it. It's fine having some of that baked on grease that you leave off. But for me, I like them to look as close to new as possible. So number 2 on my list, and the second part of this cleaning process, is using the steam cleaner. So the baking soda has done the hard work in breaking it down, and now I found that when you use a steam cleaner, and this is my Dupre, and I love it, I use it all around the house for all kinds of things, and especially now with the quarantine, I find that it's great for sanitizing a lot of stuff. But once you've allowed that baking soda to break down that grease, then using the steam cleaner, what that does is now that will melt off. With the hot steam, it'll melt off that grease, and then it comes clean and it looks brand new. And so what I do is I've taken off all of the baking soda, and so now I'm going to put a towel on the bottom here, because you don't really need to clean the bottom, and this will help to catch any of the water and make cleanup after cleaning up a little bit easier. And I'll just put, the Dupre comes with a little scrub brush end. Now you don't want to use the metal one. It has a metal one, and some of the other steam cleaners will have a metal one for a grill. You don't want to use that one. You want to use the least abrasive. And you're going to go ahead and you're going to spray it down and allow that steam to work. So you're going to want to spray it for at least 10 seconds to really melt the grease, and then it'll come off and you can use a sponge to wipe it right off. Another great thing with the steam cleaner is that, especially the Dupre has, once you take the brush off, it has a little nozzle end that's perfect for getting into these tight spaces. So, for example, the Vortex Plus, once you take the door off, you might not notice this unless you really look, but once you take the door off, there's a little space that's impossible to get to, but a lot of grease and food build up there. And so with the nozzle end, it's perfect with the steam cleaner to get that grease off. And all you have to do is just stick the nozzle end in there, and it blows all of that right out. It's also great for the Omni and Omni Plus to get in that little space on the glass door. Now let's talk about cleaning the trays. In the manual it says that they're dishwasher safe, and I know a lot of people who put them in the dishwasher. Personally, I've never, since I've had them, put them in the dishwasher. I find the dishwasher a little bit too abrasive. When you're talking about the Vortex Plus, its trays have a non-stick coating, and they're really easy to clean. If it's just a little bit of grease, I just clean it in the sink with some dishwasher soap and a sponge. For the tough-on grease, what I like to use is the Dawn Power Wash. This is really awesome. You just go ahead, put it in the sink, spray it on, let it sit for a little while you clean the rest of the dishes, and then I find it just rinses off maybe with a sponge. Especially the drip tray, it works great. And as you can see, my drip tray, you have to use it every time, and I've cooked all kinds of things, and it's practically just like the day that I bought it. With the Omni and Omni Plus, again, I don't put these in the dishwasher, I just clean them in the sink with soap and water, whatever. I have found that for the basket, what I'll do, especially when it gets really dirty, is I'll also use the power wash. But then I use this cheap, I got it at the dollar store. It's a little produce scrub brush, and I find this is really great for cleaning the basket. You do have to be careful now with the drip tray. If you clean this after every time, once you've let it cooled, and you go ahead and clean it, it comes off Everything comes off perfect. We've now come to my #1 tip in cleaning your instant air fryer ovens. And really, this goes for any air fryer oven you have. And that is always clean it after every use. I can't stress how important that is. If you want your air fryer ovens to look as clean and almost as new as when you first got them, then you need to wipe them down after you use them. And what I do, and if you've watched my videos, you know how much I love these. These are the Norwex claws, and these are perfect. All you have to do is dampen them with a little warm water and wring them out. And every time I cook in them, I will let it cool down, I'll unplug it, and then I just wipe it down with the Norwex cloth. It's really easy. I hope you enjoyed my video. All of the different products and things that I talked about in this video, I'm gonna go ahead and put a link to where you can buy them in the description below. I'll also put a detailed manual on how I did all that, including pictures on my blog. If you liked my video, please make sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.